Howdy howdy and welcome back to Gale FFTCG. I'm Serah, your host, and today we're finally getting around to a deck tech talk. We're talking about Bartz Boko. I have loved this list from its inception, and honestly, it feels like the best type of aggro list, to play. It feels aggro in the truest sense. We're riding this really high, and if we don't manage to get off our game, we just lose outright, and that is kind of how aggro's supposed to be played, unlike Doga Sophie from last Opus, which was just, I'm riding this high the whole way there, and I'm not coming down from that, and we are just going to we're going to be so consistent, our opponent can never do anything ever in the history of ever. So, this is not that deck. And without further ado, let's fire straight in. So first off, we have Lunafrey. Back attack. When Lunafrey enters the field, we choose a forward we control and bounce it to our owner's hand. And then, when we do so, our opponent selects one forward they control and puts it into the break zone. This thing is awesome. It can save our Bartz if we're in a sticky situation, Noctis, lots of different things, Jekt, Boko, whatever they decide to kill, we can just Lunafrey bounce. It's, if you wanted to, you could probably swap it out for an Area 3, which is really cool. We like Area 3 a lot as well. It's a searcher for Bartz, but I like the extra protection, a little bit of a surprise factor on your opponent. Up next, we are running 3 Noctis. We have a lot of FFCC backups in here. We can we want to search them. So absolutely no harm, no foul in running 3 of these. Area 3, we're running 2 of. It's an EX burst that when it enters the field, search for Warrior of Light. It searches for Bartz. It's great. We love it. We're here for it. We're running 1 copy of the 3-drop Stiltskin, searchable off Noctis. It searches for a forward of cost 1 or a monster of cost 1. We don't have any monsters at cost 1. We just care about the forwards. So we can search Van, White Mage, Suzy Hisa, Boko, Lightning, Ultros, or Lunafrey. Really, it's Boko that we're searching for basically every time. It's not always the one, like, we could get this late game, we could play it, and we could be searching for something different than Boko. But generally in the early game, it's Boko all the way. We are also playing 1 copy of Chelenka. I wasn't really sold on this, but I had a talk with Steve D, the YYT, and he was a bit like, try this out, you might like it. And so I did, and it's actually really good with Bartz. It's not my go-to search target off Noctis, but if you can get Bartz to party attack twice, you are suddenly going from like 2 forwards, like one extra 1 forward to an extra 2, and that's really strong. It feels a bit win more at times, but that's why there's only 1. We don't need like 3 copies. It's not the main end game strategy. It's just something that we want that is cool and that we can use, like, if our opponents put their shields down or something, which our opponent can't really afford to do in this deck, which is great. We're also running 2 copies of Kais. At first I was like, oh, 2 CP water backup, sweet, it's FFCC, yay, we can search it. But then, this card just overperforms in this deck. It just does so much all the time. If a forward you controlled forms a party this turn, the cost required to cast Kais is reduced by 2. Doesn't matter if the party is destroyed, if your opponent blocks, as long as they formed a party. Because technically forming a party is a different thing than attacking. So, because some cards read, if this card formed a party and attacked, these just have to form a party. So maybe they form a party and your opponent goes, well, now I'm going to blow something up when you pass priority. You can still play Kais for free, as long as you have that party formed. When a party you control attacks, you activate Kais. This is cool. I just love the way it goes swing, because this party wants to party attack anyway, and it's just like, cool, I'm gonna play this free backup, and it just gives you so much. But yeah, I cannot say enough about this Kais. I absolutely love this card. We run 1 Chocolate. It's searchable off Asana. It's just a cool backup with Van. We can place an item counter on Chocolate, and then we can tap it and remove 2 item counters from Chocolate to draw a card. We can only use this ability during our turn and only once per turn. It's just card draw and wind. It's awesome. We're here for it. And we're running 1 copy of Waltrill. When Waltrill enters the field, we can place 2 cards from our hand on the bottom of the deck and then draw 2. And then we can tap that, put Waltrill in the break zone, draw a card, and place a card from hand on the bottom of the deck if we have North Talent. And this is really here for either digging into Bartz Boko early game, or getting rid of multiple Noctis if we have them. We are running 3 copies of Noctis, and we want those to go we don't want to see more than one of them in hand at a time. So being able to filter out is just helpful. Last but certainly not least in our backup slots, we have 3 copies of Andoria, super strong card. 2 CP water backup. When a party you control deals damage to your opponent, you draw a card. Simple. It just this is going to be dealing a point of damage almost every single time you attack. So because generally you're attacking with big forwards, or like you're attacking with big parties with Yuna and Bartz Boko and Jekt and and like Noctis and stuff. The likelihood is you are going to get a point of damage through at least once in a game, and already drawing a card means Andoria is effectively a free backup if you can get a hit through. That's it. It's just a great card. And if you like happen to have Boko on the board and your party hits, you draw another card, and then you draw another card off of Andoria. Drawing 2 per turn is going to keep you well ahead of your opponents. Also, we are on to the summons. We're only running 3, and these 3 are the ones that made quite a few decks broken last Opus, so they've been put on the watch list. But yeah, so Sodra is a 4 CP summon that searches us 2 water characters, 2 category 5 characters, or 1 of each with a different cost, and you can add them to hand. Bartz and Boko are both category 5s. So if you see this in your opening hand, or an area 3 in your opening hand, you already know you're going to be in a good setup for an early game rush, which is really what this deck wants. I will, 9 times out of 10, keep a hand that has a Sodra in it, because I know I can get Bartz Boko pretty much right out of the gate, and that is really important. It's even better if you can start with one of them in hand and have like another win card. That way you can just go, okay, I'm going to search Bartz, and I will also search for, I don't know, like Lunafrey or Yuna or Jekt. Like, it also searches backups, so maybe you can search out a cheeky Luzaf or something like that. But yeah, this card's just great. It searches us our main game plan, and aggro lists want that. Aggro lists need that way to get straight through to what they need as fast as possible. Because other decks will play a slower, grindier game. They can afford to maybe draw into what they need. We can't. We can't afford to wait a turn to draw into what we need. We kind of need a way to search out our pieces. And Sodra does that perfect. Onto the forwards, we have 5 CP Jekt, 9k category 10. When Jekt enters the field, we choose a forward. If 1 or more forwards were attacking this turn, return the chosen forward to its owner's hand. We're going to have forwards attacking basically every turn. This is not difficult to do. If 3 or more forwards are attacking this turn, break the chosen forward and draw a card instead. Not hard to do either. If you have Bartz Boko, you just go swing with Bartz Boko. Because they've attacked, it doesn't matter if they get destroyed, don't hit, whatever. Because you can search out another thing with Bartz, you just swing with that thing if Bartz is still around. Or you swing with something else that you had, then you just play Jekt, break something, draw a card. Really good. We're only running 2, but our flex slot here is Purim, actually. Purim is really purely a countermeasure to a lot of the weird things that are running around just now. But Jekt, you could just swap out a Purim for a Jekt. I know that some people do. So you get that Jekt block effect, which is discard a copy of Jekt, choose any number of summons, auto abilities, action abilities, or special abilities, and cancel their effects. We're not particularly fussed about that in this list. We just want to be doing a lot of damage, or ensuring that we have ways of pushing damage through. Up next is our main man, Bartz, 4 CP, Category 5, Warrior of Light, so that's a double whammy on the searches. 8k. The forwards of cost 1 you control gain haste, so that is super strong. The fact that they gain haste is huge, because otherwise these 1-drops would be really piddly and they wouldn't do anything. Really, they would be just kind of dead cards. But because they have haste, it does mean that our opponent is kind of almost forced to put up shields against like party attacks with these little dudes, because like basically because if they don't, a sneaky 1-drop can just get through for that point of damage, that final point of damage, and there's just nothing that you can do about it. When Bartz forms a party and attacks, you can search for 1 forward of cost 1 and play it on the field. This is also really cool as well, because if you say your opponent's like, okay, I've searched out, I don't know, something. I've searched out like Affiliate, or somehow they've managed to get Affiliate, and you know they have Affiliate in hand. Maybe they Kojin into it or something. You know that you have to deal with a board wipe at some point, so you search out White Mage, and you play White Mage on the field, and you know you can just negate all the damage that's dealt to your entire board. Or you can maybe, when you swing, you have like a Van out, and they've killed your Boko. You just play a Boko on the field. There's tons of different ways that you can make this work. If you need to remove stuff, that's where Ultros is massively handy. You just go, okay, swing, play Ultros, bottom one of your blockers, and my attack is still going through. There's so many good things you can do with this. Yeah, Bartz, it's what makes the deck tick. I just love this card so much. Also, that art is really lovely. Up next, we have Yuna. Yuna is... It was a card that was so good in Opus 12. It was what made Water Lightning really powerful, and then it kind of saw a lot less play in the last Opus 14. But, oh my goodness, it's back and is better than ever. 3-drop, Go Wing, 7k, Category 10. When Yuna enters the field, if a forward you controlled formed a party this turn, you draw 2 cards. Already this deck is drawing so much. This extra draw sometimes seems a bit superfluous, but it's cool. It's drawing more cards, and that is always going to be good. When Yuna forms a party and attacks, we choose 1 forward. It loses 4,000 for each attacking forward until end of turn. This is where it's important. Yuna's another win con, another way of removing stuff. Because this deck does want little guys to swing through, we need people to be able to... We need attackers to get through, and having removal in the form of Yuna is just a good way of doing that. Also, for 0, you can name an element other than light or dark. Yuna becomes that element. We do have a lightning and a Suzy Hisa in here. They are purely searchable for Bartz. That's it. We don't care about playing them. We don't care about cheating them into play, or like not cheating them into play. We're not paying actual CP for them. We're just playing them. And Yuna being able to swap into any element does mean that the weird variety of elements actually gives us... It actually can still party attack and be useful to our strategy. Pardon me. We're also running 3 copies of Stola. Stola is an unfair card in a wind aggro deck. I'm not even gonna lie. It's, as soon as this hits the field, your opponent already knows that if they have an Amaterasu, it's gonna get cancelled. If they have a removal spell, you are going to cancel it. It's a stick enough forward that it doesn't receive any damage from summons or abilities. Well, it's reduced to 0 now, but you have a lot of cool ways of interacting and stopping that, and that's another thing that an aggro deck doesn't normally have. But being in wind, we can have that option of interacting with our opponent, and it stops a lot of removal, and so we are 100% here for it. Stola is just a great card. Not much more to say here. Now we're running 3 copies of Noctis. I was not sold on 3 copies of Noctis originally, but Steve D, again, a lot of this list is kind of thanks to him. My early lists were a bit more Noctis focused. I was running Serahs and things, and he was just like, you draw so much, you don't need that. Like, you don't need Serah to find Noctis. And so I kind of took his advice, and it actually works really pretty solidly. 9 times out of 10, I don't have like 2 Noctis in hand. The deck draws enough, but 3 Noctis actually seems like a decent number. You do want to see it often, but you don't want to lose because you had more than 2 in hand. That's where Waltrell fixes it, and you draw enough that eventually you're kind of making up for the CP that you're losing if you have multiple in hand. Either way, Noctis is a 6k 2-drop light forward, can form a party with the forwards of any element, again, making Lightning and Suzy Hisa a little bit better. When a party you control attacks, select one of the 5 following actions. If 3 or more forwards form a party, select up to 2 of the 5. So basically, what you do is, the first time you choose 1, but if you're like, okay, I'm going for a big party attack swing, party up with Van, Bartz, and Boko, then you turn sideways and suddenly Noctis gets 2 of these things. Or Noctis makes 2 of these things happen. You can choose 1 forward, deal it 8,000 damage, choose a monster, break it, choose a character, dull and freeze it, and Noctis gains haste until end of turn, or you can draw a card. All of these are really good. 9 times out of 10 though, I will go for the 8k damage or the dull freeze. You want to force your opponent. If you get Noctis in the early game, drawing cards is also acceptable, but you really want to force your opponent to have to deal with Noctis. Because Noctis has so many versatile effects. He can do so many different things. You want to be able to basically you want to be able to swing with him. If you need to, you can give him haste as well. If maybe you swing with Bartz Boko, you give Noctis haste, and then whatever the 1-drop is has haste, you swing with those, and then Noctis can do something as well. This card is just great. It's another win con for Bartz Boko. It's something Bartz Boko kind of needed. Originally, they were just Bartz Boko, one-trick pony. Noctis gives another win con to just random party attacks as well. Say I don't have a Bartz or a Boko on the field, but I have a Noctis. I can just go, okay, swing with White Mage, swing with Van together, and then suddenly they're dealing 8k or something like that. It just gives all party attacks a much wider range of effects when they happen, and it means our opponent has to either deal with Noctis or find a way to wipe our board very quickly, which is awesome. There is 1 Purim in this list. I'm still not sure about it, I'm not gonna lie, but this is a flex slot. It's one of these ones where if I'm going to change anything, I would honestly take out the Purim. But the Purim is also really good for matchups like Magissa, Mono Fire, weird shenanigans like that. If you go ahead and target a Mashery with this, it's quite funny. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that this card hits right now that's really good, or at least forces some bad plays. It gets a bit bigger every turn. Not much more to say, honestly. It's just here as kind of almost a text slot. But if I was going to change anything, I would absolutely take out the Purim for the Ject. Really, that would be my number 1 thing I would change in this deck. We're running 3 copies of Asana. 1, because we can search Chocolate, which we've discussed earlier. And 2, because it searches out Boko. They're both Chocobos, and so that gives us a lot of ways of searching out our main pieces. Chocolate is probably our last target we want to search, but Boko being our primary one is really important. If we have an Asana in our opening hand and an Aria, we're already sitting at a forward and a backup that search for 2 of our main forwards, and that's really good, just right out of the gate. It also just kind of helps our aggro strategy a little bit if we just drop an Asana turn 1, and then suddenly we have a Boko in our hand for the next turn, but we also have like an attacker on the next turn. Really good card. We're running 1 Lunafrey. I was originally at 2. I don't like 2. I can see why some people would run it. It's a 1-drop 7k that if you don't control for a card named Noctis forward, Lunafrey can't attack or block, and that's really steep. It feels bad in Bartz Boko when you are swinging and you've run out of your targets, you have no Van left, no White Mage. This has happened a few times. A Suzy Hisa, Bokos, lightning, you know, all of you've run out of all your good targets, and Lunafrey is your last one. You're just like, I don't have a Noctis here. This card is literally useless right now. It can't block, it can't attack. I feel like if it was like, oh, it can't attack, it would make sense. This card wouldn't be a dead card, but it's like, no, it can't block either. And so it's not even a good blocker. It's just bleh. Unless we have Noctis on the field. Because when Lunafrey enters the field, we choose a category 15 forward, other than Lunafrey we control. The only one we have in here is Noctis, but that's fine. As long as Lunafrey is on the field, it gains plus 2,000 power, and this forward cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities. Noctis becoming 8k and being untargetable is so good. That's why we're running one copy of this in here. We need our opponents... Like, our opponents know they need to get rid of Noctis. It's just obvious. It's like, as soon as it hits the field, the card just reads, get rid of this card. Lunafrey says, you have to get rid of me before you can get to him. And that's really, really important. Up next is one of the MVPs. I think this is what takes Bartz Boko from being, like, solid, like, probably mid-B tier, up into, like, probably, like, low A tier, is Ultros. And when it enters the field from deck, we choose one forward and put it at the bottom of its owner's deck. And so basically, if you win with Bartz Boko, you cheat this out, and immediately your opponent tucks one to the bottom. And that's really good. It's just a solid form of removal. It's probably better than some that in like something like a Red Hilda or something, which is like deal damage to it. A lot of forwards now have can't be dealt damage or can't be broken, and Ultros just is like, what do you mean can't be broken? That's fine, I'll just put you on the bottom of the deck. It also has a 2-drop or 2 water, and put Ultros on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, shuffle your deck, then reveal the top 5, play one card named Ultros from among them, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. You can only do it once per turn. The cool thing is, you can do this at instant speed on your opponent's turn, and maybe tuck something away, but that's not where I would recommend it. If you have an Ultros on the field already, you can decide to shuffle Ultros in. His effect triggers first, and you, like, shuffle the deck, reveal the top 5, and if there's an Ultros there, well, you're kind of jamming. It's great. You're like, whoa, cool, I play an Ultros off the top. Has that ever happened to me? No. Would I recommend aiming for it? No. But there is something really cool where if you don't hit it, you basically can play it on the field off of Bartz, because the Bartz search is still in the stack. You can just go, hey, guys, shoop, put this in, bring it back out, cool. If, on the other hand, you do your Ultros, and you do hit it, you can just choose another 1-drop and play it on the field next to Ultros. And that's really cool. So it's a cool little loop, where you can basically every turn have a way of removing something, and it's very powerful, especially because it's on the bottom of the deck. And in a late game scenario, your opponent will go, cool, okay, I'm gonna go, this thing's on the bottom of my deck. I can't play searchers, I'm not gonna play searchers for that. In the early game, it's a bit worse, but yeah. Great card. Ultros really makes this deck go off. 1-drop Lightning, category 13. It's one of the new Ice Legends, weirdly enough. It's a 9k, and really that's the main reason we're running it. It's 1-drop 9k. A lot of these cards in this list are 1-drop 3ks or 1-drop 7ks that can't attack, so we want something that's big, something that just comes out of nowhere and just goes, bam, I'm gonna hit you, you're gonna either be forced to block this, or I'm gonna finish you off on this turn. The cost required to cast Lightning is reduced by 1, or each card in your hand. Not really relevant, it doesn't matter, we don't care. If you have 2 or less cards in your hand, Lightning gains plus 1k and haste. Doesn't happen often, but if you've maybe dumped your entire hand to go Bartz Boko really early on, you just swing in, and this thing being 10k is really huge. At the end of each of your turns, if each player has no cards in their hands, Lightning deals your opponent 1 point of damage. This never happens. Lightning is here to attack, and attack big. That's all she wants to do. That's why we're running her. She's just a 1-drop 9k. At her worst, she's a 1-drop 9k. at her best. She's 10k with haste, regardless of if Bartz or Boko is on the field. So, yeah, it's not a bad card. We're running 3 copies of Boko. It gives our Bartz plus 1k in haste, category 5 as well, and a Chocobo, so double down on the search again. When a party you control deals damage to your opponent, you draw a card. That's it. It's a static effect, really, so even if it's not Bartz Boko, you can still draw cards off of it. Really good card. Not much more to say here. 1 copy of Suzy Hisa. It's a 1-drop and 1k. Usually what I do, if I get Bartz Boko turn 1, I just swing, just as aggressively as possible. Then I play Suzy Hisa out, I get in for a point of damage because my opponents ideally don't have blockers early enough. And it's like, cool, it's 1k, and then when your opponent's auto ability triggers, you put Suzy Hisa into the break zone and draw 2. So, yeah, it's just really powerful, basically. You have to put it in the break zone, but it's already dealt the damage, it's already done its thing. It's effectively drawn you 2 cards as well. It's great. It's just a cool card. Definitely would run that as a 1-of. And we're running 3 White Mage. This card is MVP, especially with fire becoming such a big thing again. White Mage basically says we put it in break zone. Forwards you control don't receive any damage from summons or abilities this turn. The amount of times people go, I'm on fire, cool, I'm gonna drop Ophilia, and it's like, no, I'm gonna get the White Mage, let's make sure that doesn't happen. Getting rid of Susanos and other things is really cool. It's a great card. And last but certainly not least, we have Sexy Van. 1-drop, 3k, Sky Pirate, doesn't matter. All that matters is it's a 1-drop. When it enters the field or attacks, we choose 1 backup we control and activate it. This is kind of cool with Chocolate, where we tap Chocolate, get a counter, Van enters the field, untap Chocolate, tap Chocolate, get another counter, and then because of the haste with Bartz, we swing with Van, we untap Chocolate, then tap Chocolate to draw a card. Just a fun little combo that you can pull off. That's the main reason we're running Van, and a little bit of, name diversity never hurt anyone, so this card is just great. It does a lot for us. It means we can play stuff on our follow-ups. Maybe we activate and we have to give us a way of only discarding 2 cards from our jack, things like that. Or if we don't even have a Chocolate, we just have Van enter the field, untap 1, attack, untap 1, and we have another 2 for a Purim and Asana, all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, that is the deck list. I am honestly enjoying playing this so much. It feels good to have an aggro deck that is aggro in the true sense of the word. We're riding highs, but if it breaks, we just lose. And I like that. I like that aggro is in a place now where it's not toxic. It feels like if it works, it goes so well. And if it doesn't work, well then that's just how it is. You accept that and you move on, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that kind of play style. But yeah, thank you for watching so much. Like, comment, and subscribe, and please let me know what kind of other decks you want to see. There's a few other ones in the works that we're getting unlocked. I'm also going to be uploading a very special podcast called Around the Table. I've got some of my competitive team actually rocking up with me to chat about the game, kind of who they are, and kind of get an introduction on just kind of what the game means to them and some of their favorite combos and fun stuff like that. It's a cool show. It'll be a very fun show. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Right, thank you, and have a very good one.